Desktop. Oh, desktop 2. Desktop. Should be a text. Okay, now I need to jump to this and then share. Yeah, desktop 1. Yeah, it works now.
Will you show where they can download the client as well?
Yeah, this is exactly where. So yeah, I'll do a whole walkthrough process in pure interactive fashion.
Cool. So we are live on YouTube. I'm gonna start the webinar so people can join.
Cool.
Cool. Hey, everybody. Welcome. We are starting the webinar soon. Today's topic is headless browsers. And as usual, I'm going to be here with Pablo, and we will cover headless browsers, and we will also try to answer your questions. So use the Q&A panel or the chat. If for some reason you can't stay until the end, don't worry. We will have the recording ready for tomorrow, and we will send it to everybody who registered. Cool. So I think we can start. Hey, everybody. Welcome to our next webinar. This is the third part of our bi-weekly Crawlera webinar series, where we try to help you with your web scraping problems and showcase how Crawlera can help you get data. So last time we discussed the browser profiles and how to override default headers in Crawlera. Also, we mentioned that if you use Crawlera and encounter a problem with a specific website, you just need to reach out to support, and we have a process in place to try to fix that problem for you, but not just for you, also for all the other users who are targeting the specific site. So today, as I said, our topic is headless browsers. It's become a hot topic in the web scraping community because you could be scraping product data, vehicle data, social media, or any other types of data. Sometimes a simple scrappy script or something similar is just not enough to get to the data. So we will talk about why that is and why headless browsers become popular for web scraping. Then Pablo will demonstrate how to configure your headless browser to use Crawlera properly. Because if you just run a headless browser on your machine and connect it to Crawlera directly, because of the way browsers work, it's going to be very slow. So we will show you how to set it up properly. So it can be relatively fast, and you can still enjoy the benefits of Crawlera's magic. So, all right, let's get started. Hey, Pablo, how's it going?
Hi, Attila, doing really great. And you?
Cool. Yeah, I'm great. So first, let's talk about why would anyone use headless browsers? Because I mentioned Scrappy, and we know, or I suppose many of us know, that using Scrappy or some web scraping tool, it can be really simple to make a request, get the HTML, extract the data. But sometimes you need to use headless browsers. Pablo, could you describe why that is?
Absolutely. So headless browsers, where do they commit in the whole picture? Headless, when we started Scrapy, I think was the year 2008. The web was a different place. Sites were static. The data was available directly on the first HTML that the browser downloaded. And then, yes, you may have images and you may have a little bit of CSS. not so much JavaScript to completely render the thing the human saw. But this was what 13 years ago, and all this time the web has evolved significantly, and as probably everybody here knows, it's using more and more JavaScript to even render data, the content itself that is not residing directly on the HTML. It involves a lot of complex downloads of internal requests in order to fully render the page that human sees, and the page that contains the data, the valuable data that the scrapers want to extract. So tools like Scrapy work at the HTTP request layer. They don't work at the browser layer. So in order to completely download a page with a tool like Scrapy or a library like Python request or something, just in a language without a browser, it will require to replicate a lot of requests, internal requests. And a shortcut to do all that, I mean, the ideal scenario for somebody writing a scraper will be, I send this URL and I specify these XPaths or CSS selectors to extract data from, but without having to work with the internal request that needs to be done on each page to extract the data, to load the data. And this is where Headless browser, which traditionally were a tool used for testing, come into play and play a big role these days on scraping. That's really the important thing. If we want to talk about pros and cons, the advantages of the Headless browser is really that they simplify the way that you write the code to extract data from a web page. Again, because you only specify how to extract the data from the page as rendered in the browser without caring about the mechanics that go underneath to load the page. The big con or the big disadvantage is that there's no Scrapy for for Headless browsers, I guess. Predominantly, the Headless browser were built as a testing tool, so you need to work around like some oddities in the API. This is not a big deal, but what it is a big deal in the cons is that they are much more expensive to run because you need to download and render and execute JavaScript, and that easily can consume 100 more times CPU and memory than running a lightweight Scrapy crawl or something that doesn't involve a browser.
Yeah. Also, like as I remember, like personally, I started off when it comes to headless browsers, I started off with Selenium. I use Selenium to scrape web data, but I always looked for ways to not use headless browsers. So because sometimes you can get the data, and for many people this is basic web scraping, that you can get the data making specific AJAX requests, because sometimes the website's built in a way that you just make that specific AJAX request and it gives you the structured data in a JSON or XML or whatever that is. And if you don't make that request, otherwise you would need to use a headless browser like Selenium or Puppeteer or something else to make the browser execute that AJAX call in the background. And with browsers, because these are real browsers, even if they are headless, they are consuming memory. They are consuming definitely more memory and resources than just making a request with Scrapy.
Yeah, and you were making a good point there. That I mean, there's a very good and legitimate case to still not use headless browser if you're looking for optimizing the performance. If you need to scrape 1 million of pages per day, per hour, then it will make a lot more sense to write a Scrapy spider, because especially if you only need to write the extraction code once or there's only a few handful sites and a lot of vertical scraping inside the site involved, then it's much better to try to optimize and use scraping. I think the way Google is a good analogy here, because the web, the search engine is well known to optimize even to the assembly instructions, the way that they have their servers. But because everything for them, like even a nanosecond for them, when you think in Google scales is important, and here is the same. So there's no silver bullets to say, yeah, headless browsers are better or worse. It's just about applying it in the right context.
Yeah, exactly. So talking about the different tools, we have quite a few options, and as I said, I'm a fan of Selenium, but I see that in the recent years, I've seen many people use Puppeteer, for example. That's been gaining a lot of traction. Also, we have Playwright that discontinued Phantom.js, and there is also one tool which we can consider headless browser, Splash. And maybe here we could talk about like Splash specifically, like how is it different, or how is it different to other headless browsers, and should people use Splash, and if so, when?
Yes. So the story with headless browsers probably starts with Selenium. That's the most well-known one that everybody in the industry knows. And more recently, Puppeteer came along a few years ago. Puppeteer was released by the same team that the same developers that work on Google Chrome. And there was also a very known one called Phantom.js and a few derivatives on top of Phantom, like Casper.js. And at the moment that Phantom.js was shut down after they saw the announcement that Puppeteer was going to be released by the Google Chrome team, they saw no point in continuing the project. All of these are open source projects, by the way. They saw no point in continuing with Phantom.js because Puppeteer will be directly maintained by the ones who maintain the browser. So yeah, nothing gets more tightly integrated than that. And they were right. And Puppeteer launched and it became really, really popular. It took, I wouldn't say it took over the QA world, but it definitely made a dent on the scraping world. A lot of people are using it, and a lot of vendors out there support Puppeteer for scraping. So Puppeteer became sort of I will even dare to call it the scrapey of the headless browser world for scraping, because of its ubiquity, because of its good integration with Chrome. And then out of some or many of them, I'm not sure exactly, of the team working on Puppeteer in Google went to Microsoft, and they started a similar tool called Playwright. And Playwright is very, very similar to Puppeteer. It's basically the same syntax. You can run Puppeteer scripts in Playwright, and they will mostly work. But the main difference with Crawlera is that it supports multiple browsers and multiple browser engines, because Puppeteer, being done by Google, it's only meant to support it's only designed to support the engine for Chrome, and Playwright supports for Safari and Firefox as well. And last but not least, there's a Splash. Splash is our very own tool for headless browsers that we released, I think it was 2014. And Splash, unlike the others, is a headless browser designed specifically for web scraping. In the same way that we design Crawlera as a proxy specific for web scraping, Splash is the same headless browser for web scraping. And that means that there are certain features that is optimized for. For example, for extraction, it's scripted with Lua, not with JavaScript, which may be a sort of a surprise to newcomers. But there was a decision done some time ago. It's also very lightweight compared to the other options that basically run a browser hidden. And Splash just uses the WebKit rendering to process the data and execute the page. There is a downside to that, though, that WebKit, the WebKit version used by Splash is a bit dated. And so some of the more modern websites may not work well with the Splash. So currently, for newcomers, we recommend going to either Puppeteer or Playwright as the go-to tool for writing headless scripts for web scraping. Splash is still a good option and much faster, but yeah, if you don't want to learn Lua or to deal with modern websites, potential issues, you can safely adopt Puppeteer or Playwright.
Yeah, and you mentioned that Splash is or it can be a good tool and it can be useful. I remember maybe it was 2 years ago, before I joined Scraping Hub, I was building scrapers, and I used the Scraping Hub stack, Scrappy Cloud, Crawlera, and I remember I was scraping a website that initially didn't need JavaScript rendering, so I was able to get the data using just Scrappy request, but after like a few months, they changed something, and I needed to execute JavaScript, and I had a really tight time frame to figure out how to render JavaScript. And I remember at the time, I was really happy that the Splash was there, because it had a really good integration with Scrappy. Literally, I just needed to sign up for a Splash account and configure the middleware, and that's it. Scrappy was able to render JavaScript with Splash, and it was like I was able to do it much more quick if if we compare it to like I started to if I were to create like a Selenium Scrappy integration or something else, that would have taken much more time.
Yeah. And there are, as you said, there's an official Scrapy splashing middleware that we support, as well as the hosted solution if you don't want to run your own Splash servers. And there are also integrations with Selenium and Puppeteer supported by the community. I don't have the links at hand, but there are certainly Scrapy integrations with those, so that you can keep all your spiders in a single place and manage with similar code base.
So let's say, jumping to the next topic. So let's say someone already has Puppeteer set up, or Selenium, or Playwright, or Phantom.js. They are scraping using some kind of headless browser, and they're considering using Crawlera because they want to get the benefits of Crawlera and proxies and proxy management. So does Crawlera work well with headless browsers?
Okay, so is this a question? In order to answer it, we're going to go through a few of the concepts that we've learned in previous workshops on Crawlera. Things like sessions, concurrency, and those things will become really important for this question. The answer is yes, of course, but you need to be prepared for that. If you just plug your headless browser technology, such as Puppeteer, into Crawlera, you will have a terrible experience by default. So it does work well if you configure it well and know how to use it. So that's the short answer. In terms of how Crawlera approaches, I guess that's the next topic. I'm seeing it there in the list.
Maybe I don't know if you were going to cover that, but like, why is it? Like, what happens if you directly connect your Selenium or Puppeteer to Crawlera without any middleware or anything?
Yeah. So let's go back to the Crawlera concepts that we saw before. Crawlera is a smart proxy that internally introduces artificial delays and does throttling in order to prevent customers accidentally hitting websites too hard and getting their IPs banned. So it goes two ways. It's to protect the websites and to protect the customers and ensure that the customer have a maximum fidelity crawl, maximum success rates. But this artificial delays introduced in Crawlera carry a downside when we move into the headless browser land. Why? Because as we already talked in the context and background, the headless browser essentially renders a page, and in order to render a page, they need to download a lot of requests like the CSS, the images, and everything that is required to, including the JavaScript, and execute it. And this means that for rendering one page, it may actually translate to 100 or 200 HTTP requests done to the server, the website server and other third-party servers involved. And this suddenly becomes not one Crawlera request, but 200 Crawlera requests with the downside that has. So, for example, if Crawlera, as you know, is priced by request, so you will be paying 200 requests instead of one request, for example, and you will also be waiting a lot until every single request is throttled to ensure concurrency and to ensure that the sites are not overloaded, right? And so by default, this is what will happen. You will connect your browser, you will connect your headless browser, you will execute it, and it will take even potentially 20 minutes to download a page if it works at all. Right. So this is the very bad experience by default that you will get.
Yeah. So basically, when using a real browser and you make one request, in reality and technically, it's not just one request. It's you request maybe a lot of CSS files or JS files or all kinds of other files that a browser needs to properly render the page.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that Crawlera, I mean, there are other proxy vendors that price either by IP or by gigabytes, and for those, it does. I mean, yes, you will pay more per gigabyte if you download the entire page and similar order of magnitudes. But we are proud of how Crawlera is priced because we want to price it by successfully deliver requests. Put the success directly on our pricing, but this can cause some complexities in the pricing side. Don't worry, and we're going to be covering all this. There's a solution, and we're going to be covering it in the next section.
Right. So does Crawlera work well with headless browsers? It does, but you need to configure it properly, and that's what's next, right?
Yeah. So how do we solve this dilemma of headless browsers? So there is a way there is the Crawlera way, the official Crawlera way to solve this. This is not the only one, but it's the one that we recommend and officially support. So first of all, the solution is to use a piece of software that we offer to download. So you download it and install it next to your client, to your scraper, where the scraper runs. It's called the Crawlera Headless Proxy, and I'm going to be showing a demo of how this Headless Proxy works. But and explains all the magic that's internally to make sure that the headless browser technology works well with Crawlera. So I'm gonna share my screen now. Let's see. All right. Do you see? Am I showing a GitHub?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Cool. Here you have Crawlera Headless Proxy. Is an open source project hosted in the Scraping Hub GitHub company. And this is the piece of software that allows you to use headless browsers properly with Crawlera. Now, what this tool does, in order to understand what these tools does, is where we need to go back to some of the concepts that we saw in previous workshops. One of them is sessions. So you may recall that sessions in Crawlera is a way to run requests using the same IP over and over and over. Because if you don't use sessions, by default, Crawlera will send the request over a different IP and a different IP and a different IP in order to maximize the throughput and not get banned. But this is a problem when you're in the context of headless browsers, because if you connect your headless browser and send requests this way, you will be sending requests to download a single page from multiple IPs around the world or the country, whichever is in question. And this is a big red flag to anti-bot systems by itself, because they know that the same client is downloading, in order to render a page, you are downloading requests from multiple different IPs. That doesn't look like a normal human behavior or pattern. So you will by default get banned a lot. So one thing that this Crawlera Headless Proxy software does is that it automatically manages sessions internally, so that a request going through to the website go through the same IP and look more like coming from a real browser. Another thing to keep in mind is that browsers, you don't think much about this in the day-to-day, but browsers do have their own concurrency controls internally. So for example, I think Chrome executes no more than 6 concurrent requests to any given website to render a page. So you may be downloading a page from scrapinghub.com, and this page may include assets or resources from both scrapinghub.com and Google Analytics or some other site. For each particular website, it will execute in parallel up to 6 requests to download that. Now, Crawlera has its own concurrency limits in the plans, right? You have 50 maximum concurrent requests in basic and 200 in advanced. And this needs to play well together, because if the headless browser is downloading a web page with too many domains, it could quickly increase and exceed the maximum concurrency limit of your Crawlera account. So one other thing that this tool does is to protect the concurrency limits on your Crawlera plan, and ensure that the requests, if they are sent too fast, they are like queued and sent no more than the number of concurrency that you have in your plan. So it does a little bit of internal throttling to make sure that the concurrency limits are respected. Couple more things. Adblock, it has adblock built in by default, and well, not by default, but it has it incorporated. It's just I'm commenting a config to get it enabled. Why is adblock so important? It's the same reason why there are browsers out there like Brave that come with ad blocking built in by default and enabled. Is because when you're rendering pages, sometimes 80% of that is content and garbage content, advertisement and tracking and other things coming from third parties that not only annoy you, but slow the hell down your browser, and also incur in more requests and more bandwidth. Nobody pays for bandwidth these days, but when it comes to a service like this, optimizing 80% of the requests or the content that needs to download from a page goes a long way. So that's why Crawlera Headless Proxy incorporates an ad blocking mechanism by default. And there is a standard in lists. There's a standard list of ad block sites available, and also the headless proxy comes with some by default configure. So all you need to do is enable it, and you have it blocking by default. The next one is actually very important. Direct access. So this is related to the cost of Crawlera. So when you're downloading pages, there are certain assets that are images or CSS files that are usually served by a different entity. It could be a CDN or some other server. And these entities, these resources are not so well protected by anti-bot systems as the main Ajax calls or the main HTMLs. Why? Because often the data is not there. We're talking about public data, right? So the main data that web scrapers are after are either in the main HTML or Ajax requests. And anti-bot systems, to obviously optimize and save costs, do not often protect static resources. And Crawlera Headless Proxy takes advantage of that. And what it does is that it serves this content based on certain regular expressions. Certain file extensions are retrieved directly from the website and sent back to the client without passing through Crawlera. Without sending them to Crawlera server. This means that the request doesn't count to Crawlera. In Crawlera, you only see requests for Ajax calls and for HTML main pages. So your usage stats in the Crawlera dashboard doesn't get crowded with a lot of static images or things like that, and it's more clean and more relevant. Direct access is practically a must-have. You need to enable it if you want a good performance with your headless browser client. We're recommending our customers to enable it. We're gonna make it the default as well. And yeah. One thing that I didn't mention, in case it wasn't obvious, is that this piece of software, the Crawlera Headless Proxy, it's a proxy itself. You run it and exposes a proxy API running in whatever machine you're running the software. So you connect your headless proxy not to Crawlera at proxy.crawlera.com import 8010, but to the place where this headless proxy is running. It's literally another proxy in front of Crawlera, but running on the customer side. And because it's another browser and it needs to inspect content to decide whether it downloads directly or it sends to Crawlera, it needs the same sort of mine-in-the-middle techniques used by Crawlera. So that means you need to install a certificate in your machine or ignore SSL errors in your headless browser to be able to send requests through the Crawlera headless proxy.
So basically, Crawlera Headless Proxy is a middleman between your scraper and Crawlera. Your headless browser and Crawlera. And what it does is that when you make a request with your headless browser, it will keep the same session for multiple requests, because you need to create more requests to get one page. And this middleman, the Crawlera Headless Proxy, makes sure that you hold the same session, so you can still use Crawlera as your proxy management tool and use headless browsers without making multiple requests for the same page using different proxies.
Yeah.
So it's
exactly. I see we have a question in terms of the recommended Chromium version. That's That's the case for when you're not using the client, the headless browser, the headless proxy server. If you connect directly with Crawlera, but we don't recommend going directly with Crawlera for the things that we discussed. One point to mention to William, and thanks for raising this up, is that we need to update the content of the support article to reflect this better. We're currently actually working in improving the overall experience of headless browser support in Crawlera, and we're gonna do basically a cleanup of that page and just provide the more updated recommendations as mentioned in this webinar. And also we're gonna allow the option to start to work headless browsers, headless browser users directly from the UI, because right now you have to contact support in order to get a user connected, not a user connected, a user with headless browser mode enabled. I was going to cover this next installation, what you need to do to get running, and what you need to do to get running. The descriptions are here. You can download. No problem, William. You can download directly the release. There's binary releases for multiple platforms here, for Mac, for FreeBSD, Linux, OpenBSD, and Windows. So there are compiled binaries that you can just download and run. Or there is also it's also offered as a Docker image for more like infrastructure installations. So once you download one thing is to download it, and then you can run it locally. And there's a few parameters that it supports that we'll go quickly over. But you also need to contact our support team to request them to enable headless browser mode in your Crawlera users. So Crawlera users, as you know, when your Crawlera account in your Crawlera organization in Scraping Hub, you can have multiple users. And headless browser support is a mode that needs to be enabled for a particular user in your account. So when you contact support, they will enable or create a new user for you to be able to plug it into Crawlera headless proxy. Right now, Crawlera headless proxy, it's also available. The mode is also only available on Crawlera Advanced Plan or above. But we're working on extending the support for basic as well at the moment, and we're working to make the experience of enabling browser support through our dashboard completely self-service without having to contact support. So we expect this early next year. In terms of the command, well, these are the options. So I guess something important to call out is that you can configure the concurrent connections based on your Crawlera plan. You can tell the tool to ignore the Crawlera certificate itself, but by default it's enabled, and make sure that Crawlera is not being tampered with. Yeah, you can pass a configuration file that has a lot of defaults defined. Yeah, this is, I mean, probably it doesn't make sense to go too much into detail about the different things. It exposes an endpoint to retrieve stats on different things, requests that were blocked and performed through the headless proxy client. But yeah, I mean, it's very well documented. You can take a look at in GitHub, and you have some sample codes here. And what I wanted to do now is actually showing it in action. So I have it actually. Let me see. I'm sharing two terminals, right?
Yes, we can see both of them. The font is can you enlarge the font a little bit?
Yeah, this is this is better.
Yeah, I think it's better.
Right. So here I basically have the binary downloaded from GitHub, as I was showing before, just downloaded from here. I'm on a Mac here, so I downloaded the Darwin AMD 64 version. And I have also a config file with things like my API key for the Crawlera webinar user is configured there. And here you can see the ad block sites used by default for the ad block processing. This is all the default config file that you can get from GitHub, by the way. So here, config, here you have it. So you can start, no, not this one. Examples, I think. Yeah, example config. And also you have examples here in different platforms. But yeah, these are the direct the regular expressions for the files that are accessed directly and don't go through Crawlera. This is the default, and it's a good default. And that's basically so what I'm going to do, I'm going to run this the Headless browser now, passing this config file and running it with -d for debugging, so that we can see a little bit something moving at least, and not a static screen. So yeah, it shows that it loaded a few adblock files, and now on this other screen I have a script that uses Playwright. Playwright Puppeteer, it basically uses the same syntax, and I'm gonna just try running this script, which basically selects the Chromium browser type, and it connects to the server 127.0.0.1.3122. That's the Crawlera Headless proxy running here in my local machine. As you can see, I'm not connecting to Crawlera, to proxycrawlera.com. I'm connected to the Headless proxy client, the Headless proxy, and I'm also choosing to ignore HTTPS errors, so I don't have to install the certificate locally. This is up to your choice. And then these are a few commented pages, but basically what I'm doing is downloading the homepage of Amazon.com. Amazon.com simply because it's a large enough page, and that should be good to test this under load. I don't want to use just toscrape.com or a site that it could be easily rendered. So let's see how that works. I'm going to also time it. I'm going to run it and time it, and I'm going to show the results once. So I'm going to remove the screenshot, and then I'm going to show how the screenshot looks after. Oh yeah, probably, I'm not sure if you see, but a lot of requests being downloaded, and there you go. There you go. In 5.5 seconds, Puppeteer download the Amazon page, the entire Amazon page, and return. And I took a screenshot of that, and I'm showing the screenshot right here in the terminal. So doing this directly to Crawlera will be prohibitively time-consuming. We can do the test just out of curiosity. If you're interested, we will be using proxy Crawlera command 8010. Well, actually, I need to configure a few more things here in terms of the authentication. I don't have the code at hand for that, because going directly to Crawlera, I will have to pass the API key, which is something that the Headless proxy already does. So Yeah, basically this is the demo. Then once you have the content, of course, here you can write the CSS selector to extract the data that you want. But that's already outside of Crawlera realm. That you already have the data and you parse it and extract it the way you want. This is where I'm concluding the demo for today, as I wanted to focus more on why this piece of software is needed, and what advantage does it bring. Again, using being able to download a big page like Amazon.com in 5.5 seconds, it's a pretty good deal, and you only be consuming a few requests to Crawlera. I will show you the user stats. Let me see if they are already synchronized with the dashboard. Hopefully they will be. Let me see recent requests.
Wilhelm commented that he tried the exact same thing that you just did before, but it took him for around a minute to load. And I'm guessing he didn't use the headless proxy.
Yeah, or you may need to ask support to enable the headless mode in your Crawlera user. That could be it too.
Also, there is a question regarding search engine result pages, scraping search engine result pages. Like basically, the question is, what would you recommend for crawling SERP pages? And I suppose, or yeah, go ahead, Pablo.
No, I mean, search engines, we typically, I mean, they don't tend to vary the format so frequently. So we have a lot of customers just scraping using without the headless browser. It depends a lot again on the scale that you need to look at. In this case, more than the sites. The search engines are not in nature very complex sites in terms of the number of requests downloaded. When they return data, the data is very static. Sometimes you may need to download to get data from the knowledge-based cards or something that is not directly the result pages, whatever the engine will be. And in those cases, I mean, you could benefit from a headless browser if you're just in a hurry and you don't have a high scale need, basically.
Yeah. Also, I just wanted to mention one of our Crawlera users, RankTank. They did a case study with us, and they actually use Crawlera to crawl SERP pretty effectively. They have 99.8% success rate and a very good response time. I think it's 1 to 5 second average response time crawling SERP.
Yeah, and I believe these guys are not using headless browsers.
Yeah, I don't think so. I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think they use headless browsers. They just use Crawlera.
Yeah. There's a question there on the examples for Selenium.
Yeah, Crawlera with Selenium.
Yeah, and there is an example in. I'm still sharing the screen. Yeah. Oh, here in examples Selenium in the headless proxy repository on GitHub. You have an example using Selenium here from Python. So yeah, with the proper configuration and all that.
Yeah, we will send out this example and more examples with the recording tomorrow.
There's another question about from Hector about whether Crawlera offers a solution to handle reCAPTCHA. Crawlera approach to capture pages is that it basically detects the capture pages as a block or a banned page, and it will stop sending requests through the same IP to that website. So it doesn't resolve the captcha, but it circumvents it or skips it and goes to try to fetch the content from another IP. The customer doesn't need to care about this because they only get the successful request back, not the captcha page. That's the end result.
Right.
No problem. Yeah, I see William comment now that he tried directly with Crawlera and took 1 minute to download Amazon. Yeah, and so he even got lucky.
We have a question. Do you have partners that provide development and support for creating scrapers? I'm not sure what you mean by that. We at Scraping Hub do that. Like we provide tools, but also we create scrapers. So
it depends, right? If you want to outsource completely the data extraction, we definitely do that. We also can help you bootstrap your project if you want it done with the Scrapy. But yeah, essentially, this is not through partners. We do it ourselves. We have half of the company is engineers writing web scrapers for our customers. So we'd love to hear from you. You can contact sales@scrapinghub.com or via our website. Now, if you mean helping you optimize your Crawlera usage, that's a different use case, and the best way is to go to support, and this is a sort of a service that we offer for Crawlera Enterprise customers only, where we sit down with customers and consult and explain them how to scrape and run better their spiders through Crawlera.
Right. Do you guys have any more questions regarding headless browsers or Crawlera or just web scraping in general? If no, then just to summarize. Oh, there are questions. Okay. Does Crawlera plans include residential proxies?
There are residential proxies available on the enterprise plan. Again, Crawlera specialty is not residential proxies. We offer it as an add-on. And our philosophy in Crawlera is don't use residential proxies unless you really need them. Crawlera goes a long way compared to other options in the market to make sure that your request can be executed successfully through that data center IPs, which carry a faster speed in general and is more compliant. They are more compliant to use as well. So, but if Crawlera doesn't work, and there are cases where it doesn't work, residential is an option on enterprise. If enterprise is outside your budget, reminder, enterprise starts at 1,000 per month. Please, do contact us and let us know your use case, and we may be able to let you in on a smaller plan. And please do mention this webinar so we know where you're coming from.
There is another question on the chat. How many Scrappy requests can be sent by Crawlera proxy rotating middleware maximum? I guess, yeah.
So I suppose he means the headless proxy server that we were talking about.
Yes.
I think, although it's not necessarily meant to be used with Scrapy. If you're using Scrapy, you're not using a headless browser, and you shouldn't also be using the headless proxy tool that we discussed. Now, in terms of the limit of requests done through the headless proxy, there's really no limit. I mean, it's up to your Crawlera plan limits, both in concurrency and in monthly limit of requests. Yeah, there's no limit. There's a best use or best practice recommendation to use one Crawlera headless proxy server per browser that you're executing on your end. But other than that, there are no limits on the maximum number of requests. Again, we're working on improving the experience with headless browsers. We acknowledge how important they have become on the scraping side of the world, and expect to see more product updates around this in the coming months.
Right. Okay. So if no more questions, just to summarize this session. So basically, if you want to use headless browsers with Crawlera, download the Crawlera headless proxy client, and using that, you will be able to use your headless browser with Crawlera with relatively fast response times, or slow. Yeah. Is that right, Pablo?
Yeah, well, the headless proxy allows you to fetch pages with headless clients much faster than Crawlera, to a point that they are usable. Otherwise, it's just too slow. The usability is very bad.
Right. All right. Thank you, everyone, for attending this webinar. Yeah. Sure.
No. I think we probably will be circulating a feedback form, perhaps. I'm not sure. It'd be good to if we do that to know what type of content you guys would like to see more of. Like if you would like, because we're doing this every 2 weeks. This is our third session of this series. And if you would like us maybe to go deeper into headless browsers, or you would like to cover other of the concepts in Crawlera in more depth, we'd be happy to. So help us, use these workshops for the most valuable stuff.
Yeah, tomorrow we will send out the recording and some additional relevant information, like Selenium examples and the Selenium middleware. And also the survey that you can tell us what to talk about in the next session. So as Pablo said, so yeah, just to end the webinar, many of you already have Crawlera accounts, which is great. But if you don't yet and you want to try it, you can go to scrapinghub.com/Crawlera and give it a try for free. Or if you would like to talk to a salesperson to discuss your custom web data needs, or you are interested in residential proxies, you can reach out to Jennifer by email, jennifer@scrapinghub.com. All right. Thank you, everyone, for attending this webinar. Thank you, Pablo.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you all for attending.
See you in the next one. Bye.